With the Fear and Greed Index currently sitting at 15 and extreme fear having not been this low since March 10th of 2025, and with Bitcoin absolutely crashing since hitting the previous all-time high on October 6th, now having dropped about 29.15% over the last 43 days, with public documents recently being released potentially tying Bitcoin to this guy. To this guy. Oh, that's still not the right one. To this guy. But even with all the uncertainty in the market, and with Bitcoin losing nearly 30% of its value, Bitcoin dominance has barely even budged after setting the low on September 13th. But after taking a look at the charts, there still may be some very good opportunities that only continue to get better, with many undervalued assets like XDC priced so low currently. Could now be the time to start acquiring these assets before we see a much bigger move? Let's find out. And as always, this is not financial advice and is merely the rantings and ravings of a complete madman. Currently, the MMRI is sitting at 256 in the high risk range, with price setting the low of the year right here on September 16th at 242. We are currently resting right here near the lows. And the markets are starting to recover a little bit today, with FET up 14.4%, AB up 18.4%, Aster up about 10.9%, and Telcoin sitting at about 7.1%. Going over to the week, we can see that Telcoin is still in the lead out of the top 100 at plus 108%. And overall, the 501 to 600 market cap rank category performing the best with plus 2.1% currently, and with the 701 to 800 performing the worst at minus 14.3%. With Zcash taking the crown for the month with plus 147%, with Decred running slightly behind at 92.4%, with Dash at plus 74.9%, STRK at 67.7% in gains, and Telcoin starting to raise its head even within the monthly rank. The DXY is still burning bright, sitting at about 99.64. Volatility index is up slightly at 5.32. Silver's still running strong at $50.77. Gold holding its own as well at $4,072. Bitcoin catching a slight bid here, up about 1.1%. XRP also catching a bid, running at about $2.22, up 2.63%. XLM doing slightly better than XRP, gaining about 3.68%. Algorand up 3.79%. HBAR grinding out 2.72%. We can see that Solana is really getting defended heavily at this particular level, gaining 6.89% currently. XDC down about 0.5%. Telcoin is also back in the green, with ZBCN still down about 2.5% on the day, with 5 of my recent 6 picks being in the green today, with AB being up 19.67% on the day. That's fabulous. So let's not waste any more time and let's get into the XDC charts. Do me a favor and hit that like button before we get started. I'd really appreciate it. First off, I did a video back in early June of 2025, about 5 months ago, called A Scary Pattern That Could Be a Great Opportunity with XDC, talking about how it could potentially go back to 0.023 cents. You definitely want to check this video out. Now, first off, jumping over and taking a look at XDC on the weekly chart, you can see that going all the way back to this point right here on August 16th of 2021, the price had been forming a nice wedge pattern right here until recently breaking out of it on this candle here on November 18th of 2024. Since that point, we have come up and hit a high right here on January 13th, 2025, just after the Trump election pump, getting to nearly 16 cents before moving into this decline that we are currently seeing. Price made a 5-wave Elliott wave impulse move to the upside, hitting this peak before falling down into the ABC correction that we are currently seeing. Now it looks for all intents and purposes that what we could be about to see is a retest of this upper trend line, which could potentially take us to higher levels afterwards. But I do believe that what we are seeing here could be a much smaller fragment of a much larger wave pattern to come. Now, in regard to Elliott wave, 5-wave impulses to the upside, it's not uncommon for the wave 2 to retrace either to the 0.5 fib, to the 0.618, but also keep in mind that price can retrace as much as 99% of the wave 1. And if you currently look at this chart right here, you can see the 0.99% fib would be resting right down here near this previous low, slightly under this lower trend line that I talked about in that video that I just outlined, resting right in the area of that price that I was talking about, the 0.023 range. In this case, it's sitting at right around 0.0217. So in regard to the current pattern that we're seeing, I see a couple potential options here. We could see this ABC moving to the downside, retesting off of this upper trend line and breaking to the upside into a wave 3. With this 5-wave move here and this ABC correction actually being a small fraction of a much larger pattern, being the wave 1 into the wave 2, moving into the wave 3. Price could also break through this upper trend line, retracing the wave 1 even deeper, coming down into the range of the apex of this particular triangle pattern, potentially even as low as the 0.99% fib level. So one could potentially argue that if you are looking to accumulate XDC and you believe in it long term and you think that it's going to be very important in regard to the coming quantum financial system that is absolutely unavoidable, you could reason that starting to buy XDC, dollar cost averaging into a position from the 0.618 to between the 0.99% fib in this potential range right here could be a very good idea. It's almost impossible to pick the exact bottoms, but it is very easy to start dollar cost averaging into a position, building it up over time, starting with smaller purchases in the beginning and then increasing the size of those purchases over time as the price continues to move downward, and reducing the size of those purchases if the price begins to move against you. But it does appear to me that what we're currently seeing in XDC right now could potentially be just the beginning of a much larger wave structure coming over the course of the next few years. And if you'd like to support my channel, the easiest way to do that is to join my Patreon. With 3 different membership tiers, you can also join for free if you would prefer, or if you'd like to trade leverage or spot, or perhaps even if you're just looking for a place to swap your cryptos for 0 fees, use my link, sign up and join BitUnix. You'll be glad that you did. Now, jumping over and taking a look at the monthly chart so that we can get a better overall perspective of what we're dealing with in regard to the current XDC chart, we can see that each time the price moved up, hitting new highs, it eventually crashed back down into that 2-cent range, coming up, hitting highs, setting the second point for the upper trend line, coming back down to the 2-cent range. With price breaking out of this wedge pattern, coming up and setting this high after the Trump election pump, it now appears that this ABC could be about to retest this upper trend line in this range. But if price does break through, we could see this pattern repeat, coming down to this lower trend line back in that 2-cent range once again, fulfilling the same pattern that we have now seen on 2 previous occasions. If that was the case, this could present the ultimate buying opportunity in this range. But being where price is currently trading here, this could present a great opportunity for people to start accumulating slowly over time, because in regard to XDC, we could actually be seeing a much larger pattern forming. Now keep in mind, this will take several years to play out. But if the price does rebound off of this upper trend line, perhaps coming back into the apex even, back down to that 2-cent level before breaking out ultimately to the upside, the pattern that we're currently seeing with this 5-wave impulse to the upside, moving into the ABC correction we are currently in, this could actually be the wave 1 and the wave 2 of a much larger impulse to the upside, completing the wave 2 and moving into generally what is the largest wave of them all, the wave 3. By measuring this out, coming off of this high right here and coming off of the previous low right here, it gives us these fib levels in this range right here, putting the 1.618 at about 53 cents. By using this shadow line, which is a non-dominant trend line, giving us this area here, a very likely candidate for the rebound of this particular wave 4. And generally, wave 4s do not retrace that deep into the wave 3 before breaking into the wave 5, which ultimately, if it was incredibly bullish, would set us up with a 1.618 in this range right here at about $2.85. Keep in mind that this point right here represents approximately the last 6 months of Trump's administration. Now, assuming that this wave 5 wasn't this strong, and even if it was slightly truncated, it could still end up being right around this 50-cent range. If it did push up an exhaust at the 1.786, that could still put the price right in that 70-cent to 75-cent area. But of course, if things did get incredibly bullish, pushing into the elections, aligning with the 4-year cycle, we could even end up seeing something like we did during the Trump election pump right here in early November, with price breaking out of this particular wedge going up to set this high right here. If you do look at this closely, the one thing that you can see is the price set a higher low here, it set a higher high here, and depending on where this particular C wave ends, could be setting another higher low, which basically means at this point we are in a longer term uptrend. If we do set the higher low here, somewhere in this range, then the odds are that we're going to go on to set a higher high, meaning that the price is very likely to get back up above that 15.5-cent level at a bare minimum. At the most, I would expect to see a rejection up off of this non-dominant trend line. But if it does break through that level, then I think this is going to be our best case, lining up with these fib levels right here in this range for the termination point of the wave 3. But all in all, we've seen incredible moves within the ISO 222 coins, but XDC has been lagging well behind the crowd. And in my personal opinion, I believe that XDC is one of the few cryptos that has incredible utility. It also has incredible potential moving forward into the quantum financial system. And I do believe out of all the ISO 222 tokens currently on the market, the XDC is likely at this point one of the most undervalued assets that you can acquire. Right now, resting right around 5 cents. That doesn't mean you want to bet the farm, as generally dollar cost averaging is a much better way to go, and there's certainly no guarantees that XDC is going to go anywhere. But when you look at the price of the other ISO 222 tokens, when you take into account utility as a driving factor moving forward into the age of adoption that we are currently in, moving away from the age of speculation. And with the 4-year cycles changing, twisting, and tilting moving forward, I do believe that XDC has a key fundamental part within the quantum financial system that is currently being built before our eyes. And it certainly could present an incredible opportunity for anybody who's willing to really look at it. But of course, this is not financial advice, and don't just take my word for it. Do your own due diligence. Start digging in, start taking a look into this. And if it's something that you would like to acquire, put together a plan, and as always, manage your risk accordingly. Don't be taking high risk, leverage trading your position at 10, 20, 30x. Stick to spot. Start to accumulate. Accumulate over time. Dollar cost average. Build a position that they cannot take away from you. Be patient, and in the long run, you will outperform 99% of the people that trade daily or swing trade. Mark my words. Taking less risk is by far the most responsible way to go. But of course, how you approach it is completely up to you. So good luck and have a great day.